Thank you, everybody, for joining today. My name is Pat Schober. I'm the founder of Poetica Marketing. And today we're going to be talking about the marketing and sales playbook, which is a strategy we've built out to better align marketing and sales strategies to create more leads and greater revenue for your company. So before we dive in, I'll tell you a little bit about us at Poetica. Poetica comes from the phrase ars poetica, which is the art of language or the art of poetry or the art of everything that goes into language. And as storytellers, we thought that was a very fitting name. And at the end of the day, what we do is we help companies stand out online and in person through marketing and events. So at the moment, we're a two-person team, a husband and wife duo. I don't believe too much in titles, but I am the founder and the content guy, and my wife, Regina, is our event specialist or event coordinator, whatever you want to call us. And that's what we do. That's kind of how we separate the company and divide and conquer. Everything that we talk about today is available in our latest ebook, which is Boost, the Solopreneurs and SMBs Marketing and Sales Playbook. So everything that we talk about will be in there, but if you want an opportunity to think more deeply, to really sit with the information, you can download that at any point and really dive into some of the topics. Later, we're going to be talking about some math. I promise it's not going to be too intimidating. We've built out a tool to simplify a lot of the math, but we'll give you some of the algebraic formulas that you can use internally in case you want to build your own tool or resource for your marketing and sales team. So today's agenda, we'll start off talking about our guiding philosophy. And if you remember nothing else from this presentation, or if you read the ebook and forget everything else, I hope at least you remember our guiding philosophy. From there, we'll talk about some strategic communication strategies. And then we'll talk about, as I mentioned, some math. I promise it's not going to get too complicated. It's really just two figures you'll need to understand within your business. And ideally, as a business owner, you already have those. Hi, Jose. Welcome. By the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to enter them. Raise your hands. I do want this to be as interactive as possible. So there, to kind of start, back in 2013, so about 12 years ago, I was an intern at a B2B journalism company. And one of the very first articles I wrote was about this feud between marketing and sales departments. Marketing is angry at sales because they fumble all of the leads they generate, and sales is angry at marketing because of the quality of the leads that they generate isn't good enough. Still a problem today in major companies almost 15 years later is there is this disagreement in ideology between what qualifies as a good lead and how they should be handled, and et cetera, et cetera. In addition, one of the biggest issues that we've identified as an agency that often works with solopreneurs and small businesses is a lot of business owners start their businesses because they're really, really good at one specific thing. Maybe they're really good at building decks, or they're really good at helping people fix their phones, whatever it might be. They get into the business because they're passionate about that one thing, but they don't really have a business or marketing or sales background. And one of the issues that we saw very early on was we would generate leads for a client or a business owner. And one of the questions we would ask is, okay, when we generate these leads for you, what are you going to do with them? What happens with your leads? What's your sales process look like? And a lot of times we would just get a shrug. I don't have a sales process. I don't know what to do. And so this guide, this conversation today, the ebook that we've generated, is a stepping stone for better aligning your marketing and sales process for greater overall success. And if you have two disparate teams within your business, ideally this can be a starting point for helping them get along a little bit better. So I'm going to challenge all of us a little bit at the beginning here with our guiding philosophy on marketing and sales. So this is my opinion, and it's been very fruitful for us as an agency. It's been very fruitful for the clients who've sort of adopted this, and I've heard it from people who are much smarter than me as well, and they've seen success from it. But marketing and sales are, at the end of the day, both service roles. So marketers often get a bad rap for being these um, manipulative, psychological uh, wizards who kind of sway people into buying things they don't need. And the classic, car salesman is somebody who's going to lie to you and pressure you and basically hoodwink you into buying stuff that you don't want or don't need. And at the end of the day, that's not really what marketing and sales is about. Our consumers are more educated than ever before. A lot of times they know what it is that they want or they need before they even reach out to anybody. So, marketing today in 2025 is really about education, and it's about educating what makes your company different, what makes your products different, what makes your services different. And sales is just a refining of that process even further. It's educating on those specific products and services to help an individual or a business owner, whoever they may be, make the right decision for them. So, if you remember nothing else, marketing and sales both become a lot easier when we look at them as service roles, really customer service roles in helping people make better decisions for themselves. And with this same philosophy, one thing that I've noticed as a salesperson is a lot of our pitches don't feel like pitches. They move and they feel a lot more like conversations. And that has made our close rate go up a lot higher, and it's made us a lot more successful, and it's made our clients a lot more successful as well. So if you remember nothing else, please remember this 3-minute segment from this presentation today. All of that said, I think one of the great things to develop is some sort of feedback loop between your marketing efforts and your sales efforts. Both teams and both disciplines are constantly being inundated with different types of information. Marketers today have access to more data than ever before. Data from the website, from social media, from different email campaigns, and they're using this data to make informed decisions. Whereas salespeople, on the other hand, are often more customer facing. They are talking to people about their pain points, about their problems. And so there's a disconnect, like we mentioned earlier, about the types of information that they're receiving and the goals and the strategies that they're developing independently. Really, there should be a more consistent feedback loop between these two disciplines. So as marketers see data that helps them say, well, hey, we've been targeting this demographic, but we seem to be getting a better response from this demographic. Maybe we should shift our language or shift some of our landing pages to focus more heavily in this area. That should be a conversation with sales because they also have a different opinion on who has been most receptive during those sales conversations. And so there needs to be a feedback loop of case studies, customer success stories, some of the challenges that have popped up during the sales cycle, some of the rebuttals that they're hearing. And the more ammunition that marketers have as they're building content, as they're writing landing pages, they can really start to anticipate the problems that the audience is facing and really create content that responds directly to that. And then, as they have that established, they can better inform some of the conversations and the stories that the sales team is telling to their target audience as well. With that said, I think it's valuable to focus a little bit more on your copywriting and the language that you use. Not all of us are sitting around every day writing copy for social media or for our websites, but we're all telling stories on some level. If we're in marketing, we're telling stories about products and customer success. If we're in sales, we're talking a lot about customer success as well. And so it really behooves us to get really, really good at copywriting on a basic level so that we can all become better storytellers. And even if you're not physically writing copy, it's helpful to verbally be able to articulate some of the ideas and the stories that are useful to our target audience. And really, one of the best tips possible is to aim for brevity and clarity. When I work with young writers, I always refer to them to this book called The Elements of Style, which my favorite writing rule of all time is omit needless words. And I think, just as a quick aside, all of every golden piece of writing advice comes from that one rule: omit needless words. But as we're working on copy and language, both in the marketing and the sales space in those disciplines, yes, we want to focus on brevity and clarity, but we also want to focus on value. Like I said earlier, our target audiences, our consumers, are better informed than ever before. They know about the competition. They know about your products. They know about your services. They don't care about that. What they care about is the value that you can bring for them. How can you solve a pain point that they have right now? How can you provide a solution that they need right now? That's what really matters, and that's what we should really be focusing on within our language. With that in mind, I want to highlight one of the greatest examples of copywriting ever. So when I was in high school, the iPod came out and it used this ad campaign: iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. And I want to highlight this for how elegant this is, both in terms of demonstrating value, but also as a copywriting example. I wish every single website started as simply as 1,000 songs in your pocket. When this came out, as you might recall, Discman was still a big thing, right? It was that big chunky CD player that would sit on your hip. We had all of these weirdly shaped MP3 players that were coming out. And Apple came into the fray with this iPod, which was this beautiful, simple, elegant design. And it had this wonderful tagline: 1,000 songs in your pocket. Talk about omit needless words. There is no fluff in this, and it is all exactly value driven. I don't have to worry about carrying around 2,000 CDs anymore in this big leather case in my car. I don't have to worry about fumbling through batteries on my Discman. Everything that I want to listen to is now transportable. And the visual cues that they've picked up here, it's in my pocket. By telling me that, I know that this is going to fit nicely into my jeans, into my shorts. When I go out for the day, I can carry my entire music library with me. And 1,000 songs, that's just an arbitrary number. Of course, they could hold more than that, but it's just a number that's very simple. It is digestible, and it's just a way of illustrating, hey, this is a big deal, and it's going to change the way you live your life. So I wanted to highlight this as an example of how we can start to push our marketing and our sales language in the right direction. With that in mind, 3 messaging tips to kind of focus on. Focus on the pain that your consumer or your target audience is facing. Focus on the solutions that you're providing, and focus on the value of those solutions. Like I said at the beginning, nobody cares about the widget that you offer. Nobody cares about the really data-informed service you provide. What they care about is the payoff. They care about the 1,000 songs in their pocket. If you're selling blood pressure medication, they don't really care that it can lower their blood pressure by 10%. They want to know that it's going to increase their longevity. It's going to make it easier for them to play with their kids. It's going to reduce the risk of a heart attack, right? So really focus on that value, and you'll resonate so much better in both your marketing and your sales strategies. With that in mind, I just want to note a few different storytelling techniques you can use on both sides. And by the way, it is a terrific, wonderful skill as a salesperson to have stories locked and loaded in your little mental Rolodex to assist you in any conversation you have with any potential lead or prospect or even a potential customer. So make sure you're both aligned on case studies. What are some clear, hard examples of customer success you've seen in the past? A lot of our case studies, for example, we don't worry so much about the financial impact because sometimes looking at the numbers isn't actually the whole story. We often focus on the clear emotional impact that marketing efforts or consulting efforts or event efforts have. So for like example, we once worked with a haunted house, and yes, we helped them have their greatest sales night ever. But the real crazy mayhem behind all of this was that they ran out of space in their parking lot that night. For the first time ever, it was packed to the gills and they were turning cars away. And that is such a more vivid storytelling element. So having your marketing team and your sales team aligned in what those stories are and how we can articulate them as well as possible. Facts and benefits within those case studies is really important, but it's also important as people move further down the funnel to really highlight the benefits of your unique services or products so that your consumers can do more of a side-by-side comparison between one, your own products and services, but also with the competitors. We can also dig deep into the niche that you specialize in. What are the stories about, if you specialize in the medical community, what are the stories that have helped different doctors and chiropractors and therapists really succeed with your products and services? And we can also rely on reviews and testimonials. This is often a wonderful source for case studies and just information on how we've helped customers succeed. And if you're not really paying close attention to these, you're missing out on some really great opportunities to illustrate the value that you have. And I started to say this earlier, and I just want to emphasize this because as salespeople, we have a really, really tough job. Um, I have the luxury and the misfortune of working in both marketing and sales. And sales is it's a tough game. In marketing, you have time. You have a campaign that you build, and you have time to do data and research and come up with the greatest slogan and these wonderful graphics. And then you launch them out and you get feedback and you iterate and you iterate and you iterate. You have time. In sales, you're often having a conversation, and that conversation is your opportunity. And yes, you can continue to follow up with that individual, but you have a limited amount of time to make an impression. And so when we think about storytelling, a lot of times sales is about leveraging the right story in the right way at the right time. And that's why it's so important to work with your marketing team to really come up with these really wonderful, detail-rich stories about past customer success, about the benefits of the products and stories or services that you offer. And you really need to have these examples ready to go at a moment's notice so that you can have really impactful conversations that'll make you incredibly memorable to your audience. Now, all of that said, I do want to talk about some math, and I will send out the slides later. And there's a lot of algebra here that you can dig through in your own time, but I'm calling a bit of an audible today. Instead of getting into the math, I'm going to make everything as easy as possible for you. We have built out a spreadsheet here, and I will pull it up. Actually, I already had it up, but this spreadsheet is designed to help you identify how many leads you need to generate in a given amount of time to generate and reach your new revenue goals. So, for example, if you wanted to acquire 10 new clients over the next quarter, how many leads would you need to generate? And so, this tool is designed to be a helpful starting point in your marketing and sales conversations and to really keep both of your efforts aligned so that you know exactly, hey, this is how many leads our marketing team needs to generate. And this is the bar for our sales team in terms of actually closing and making those conversions. So I know there's a lot of numbers on here, but there are really two things that we really need to focus on and we need to do as preliminary research to make this chart or this graph as valuable as possible. So All of you have access to this. If you use the QR code, you can open this yourself. You have view access at the moment, and you'll just need to, by the way, can everybody see this? Can somebody raise their hands if you can actually see the spreadsheet? I don't know if it's sharing right now. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Nicole. Excuse me. So there are two things we need to look at. One is your conversion rate. So this is really looking at once a lead comes in, what is the likelihood of your sales team closing on that lead? Now, a good salesperson is going to close on somewhere between 20 and 30% of their leads. Sometimes it's lower. A lot of people, when they start off, they're going to fumble around a lot and they might see 10%, 20%. But once we get into that 10 to 20% range, we start to see things move along a lot smoother. So, one thing to do before you start using this tool, take a look at your last 10, take a look at your last 100, if you have the data, leads and sales that came through, and really do the math on what was your success rate. For our purposes here, we're going to say it was a 33% success rate, which just means 1 out of every 3 leads we closed. And we're just going to use that for the math. Up here, and you can edit all of this once you have your own version. You can edit this however you want, but we're going to look at the success rate for your last 10, 100 sales if you have the data, and look at the time frame of those sales cycle and really go through and see how many closed within 1 week, how many closed within 2 weeks, how many closed within a month, 2 months, 3 months, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Eventually you reach a point where it just hits 100%. The reason we want to do this is because this calculator is really designed to help us figure out how many leads we need to generate in a given time period. So if we come in here and we say, hey, I want to generate, I need 10 leads, or I need 10 sales, well, let's say 10 leads within the next 2 months, and I want to increase my revenue by $20,000. And just as for the sake of a number, let's say my average sale nets me $2,000 in revenue. And we're looking at 2 months time period, and I close 40% of my sales. That means over the next 2 months, I need 76 leads to generate $20,000 in revenue on average, because I know that my average sales value is going to be $2,000. I know this is like a lot of weird math, and so if you need time to sit with this or we need to have a deeper conversation, I'm happy to do that. But the value of this number here is that it starts to give you, your marketing team, your sales team, a starting point. And in a moment, we're going to talk about the value of CRMs and tracking your sales. But it really starts to say, okay, we need 76 leads. How are we going to get them? What have been our best channels for generating leads? And by the way, what have been the best channels for our salespeople? Which channels have generated the highest quality leads and have been the easiest for our salespeople to close? So these are some of the conversations that this tool can start to generate, and they can make everything so much easier for you down the line. So I will, well, this is fine. It's not full screen anymore. Oh, there we go. So like I said, I'll send out the slides later and you can go through these individually, but we won't spend too much time on them because, it's a lot of algebra and not everyone needs that. So let's talk about, all right, so we have this tool. It's starting conversations, right? It's starting conversations on where are we getting our leads from? How do we build out an appropriate strategy? And how do we make sure the leads that we generate are really high quality? And that's where a CRM really becomes important. So a CRM is just a tool for tracking customers and leads over time. I've seen people use Excel. I've seen people use Trello. I've seen people use Salesforce. I don't care what you use. What I do care is that you're keeping track of everything somewhere and that it is readable and editable to you and the people who need it. Because really what we're looking for is, one, we need to understand the ROI of our marketing efforts. So if I spend $1,000 over here on Google Ads and I spend $1,000 on social media ads and I put $2,000 into an email campaign, I need to understand where those individual sales come from to the best of my ability so I can gauge where success is coming from. And once we start to understand where our ROI is coming from and where our salespeople are having the most success, we can really start to double down in those channels that generate really, really high quality leads. And a CRM is ideally built so that we can take really, really meticulous notes. We can look at where a lead came from, what conversations we've had with that individual so far, how far along they are in the sales cycle, what kind of resources they might need, who we need to tag in to help out with the sales conversation. So a detailed CRM really gives us just more firepower as salespeople, but it also helps us gauge marketing success over time. A lot of really great CRMs today can also help us automate outreach. So it can help us send out automated emails or text messages, one, to make sure that we're having a continuous conversation with our leads, but two, it also is just there to assist, to increase visibility. It's really, really hard as a salesperson if you have 100 leads, talking to them every single day, staying in front of them. So a great CRM is really designed to help you stay in front of them. And again, this goes back to where your copywriting is really important because it helps you stay in front of them in a very personalized way and helps you resonate with them as an individual as we try to help them solve their problems and their pain points with as much value as possible. Last thing I'll say, and again, this goes back to that feud between marketing and sales, and I just wrote about this the other day on LinkedIn as well. Follow up with your leads as soon as possible. So I'll give you a classic marketing sales problem. So we had a client a few years ago, and we started generating leads for them, and they would often just drop the ball. They would fail to follow up that same day. Oftentimes they would fail to follow up, period. They refused any sort of CRM support. So eventually we got to the point where like, hey, we'll bring in the CRM for you. It'll automate a lot of your text messaging. It'll automate a lot of your emails. This will help you. For whatever reason, they didn't want that additional tech support. They wanted to make sure everything was personalized. They also just, if they didn't successfully reach a lead via phone the first time, they didn't really follow up via that either. And so there was this constant frustration on both sides because on my side, it's like, hey, we've just generated these leads for you, but you're fumbling them in the sales process. And the sales people there were complaining that, hey, these individuals aren't picking up the phone. And yeah, they get a phone call from an unknown number. Of course, they're not going to pick up on the first go. You need to leave a voicemail. You need to follow up. There are other marketing channels that you can use as well. So the important thing is this: make sure you're following up with those leads consistently to get the most value out of them. They might not pick up on that first call. They might not respond to that first email. They're probably being talked to by other competitors as well. But it's up to you to really make sure that you're standing out as much as possible to increase your chance of closing and to make sure that your marketing and sales efforts are harmonious instead of contradictory and alleviating some of that tension there. So that is all of the information I have for you today. But does anybody have any questions? I would be happy to entertain any sort of strategy issues, or if there's anything I didn't go into in enough detail, I would be happy to explain further. Great. Well, if we don't have any hands raised, I do want to invite you guys to reach out if you need anything else. On poeticamarketing.com, you'll find all of our past blogs. You'll find a lot of free downloadable content. You can find all of our past webinars as well. You can also check out our YouTube channel for our past webinars. And you can also feel free to email or call either myself or Regina, and we'll help you get sorted. So thank you everyone for joining today, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much.